Hello, and welcome to Shades of Pleasure, a podcast celebrating pleasure, sexuality, and the vibrant, inclusive spectrum of love, gender, and relationships. I'm your host, Mo, and with me are my co-hosts, Melissa, Wayne, and Kelly. And together we hope to dismantle tropes that no longer suit us and change the narrative towards more authentic living.
So Wayne brought up the idea of and sharing information and being an open relationship, how you can often want to protect your partner. And even though I sound like a broken record, I feel like that brings up front loading and agency for me, because oftentimes we rob somebody of their agency by thinking we're protecting them when really we're making decisions for them, or we're hiding things from them when it's coming from a good place to not hurt them. And so that's where the whole front loading and agency comes in for me. But that's what I think of when I hear someone say I'm trying to protect my partner. But I don't know. What do y'all hear when you hear someone say?
I mean, first of all, I think that's I think the whole front loading and agency is just going to be a blanket like go-to for everything that we talk about, especially if it's related to non-monogamy. Actually, as you were talking, I might be able to offer some context that might give it a little bit of a twist from, making it a little bit different. Maybe, I don't know, let's throw it out there. So, because, of course, especially with non-monogamy, I think there is that factor. It's something that is very sensitive, it's a tender topic. It's scary. It's unknown to a lot of people. So that tendency, there is like kind of that natural tendency to, to like be cautious of the things that we're saying or whatnot. However, I feel like the way that you were talking about it might happen, especially maybe in some long-term relationships, but more of this kind of codependency type thing, which can happen even not with non-monogamy or whatever. I mean, we know these topics are not specific to non-monogamy, but I feel like you were kind of talking about it more like that. So less situational to non-monogamy and kind of the courage that it takes to speak about things like that, but really kind of broadly and more generally of protecting ourselves and this like kind of codependency type thing, which I don't know if we've talked about much here. I feel like we talked about the opposite of like going too fast, or how hard is it to, that we're trying to adjust to the other person's desires and needs, where in this case, it's like we're not sharing enough of that, and that can be problematic as well.
Yeah, and the way I was talking about it was just to kind of give a brief overview. Mm-hmm. But what you just said actually brings up the other part is that we tend to a lot of times you see it mostly comes from monogamous relationships, but it also happens, as we know it, in non-monogamous relationships as well, because we still bring a lot of the monogamous ideas over with us when we're moving into non-monogamy. That's where we kind of put ourselves in a bubble and kind of like not really share outside of ourselves what's going on, again, to protect our partner sometimes, like to protect the relationship, to make it look like it's like we're good all the time and we're okay, and we have no worries. And what we do is end up isolating ourselves and not getting the help that we need.
Oh, you mean from like the bigger community?
Yeah.
Like we got to put on this.
Yeah, to act like, oh yeah, we're good. Like, everything is okay. Yeah, we're not really allowing for our support systems to help us in the way they could, because we're trying to keep it contained.
We're masking.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I wanted to, I think that, like, yes, the answer is always agency and trying to give each other agency and trying to front load. But the reality, I think, is that as a society, more people, we are all codependent. Like, codependence is baked into our idea of what monogamy is supposed to be. And so I think that what happens when partners like open up for the first time, or are starting to explore that, really like unpacking that codependence is so important, because I think a lot of what trips people up in opening up and being non-monogamous is these ideologies that were sort of like taught that, till death do us part, in sickness and in health. And I can think of all of these things that are like kind of like perpetuate and support this idea of codependence. And in opening up, couples that really have to learn interdependence, because otherwise it's not going to work, right? Non-monogamy doesn't work when there's like baked in codependence. And I think that like telling people to front load and giving, educating them around the agency piece is great. I think all of that is really important and people need to understand that. But like what I think that has really helped me and my clients is helping them understand how codependence feels in the body, right? Like to take it back to the somatics all the time. It's kind of really like what I've been nerding out on, especially because it's been helping me so much in the last couple of months, like really leaning into what is happening for me in the moment, because what I'm experiencing is so different than what my brain is telling me. So my body is telling me one thing and my brain is telling me another thing. And like we can intellectualize front loading and agency and all of that stuff as much as we want, but until our body really understands that we're safe, I think that codependence is it's just kind of like what we're going to default to. Our body's just going to default to it because we've been like, it's been beaten into us for so long.
Yeah, I've noticed that you have been nerding out a little bit on that on socials, and I love it. And since you've kind of laid that out there, I mean, do you mind going a little bit further into it and exactly like how that's manifested? Because I think you're right on the money.
Yeah, for sure. So I'm gonna just I'm just gonna dive in and talk completely like candidly and personally about my personal relationship. And like, my nesting partner and I have for the entire time have talked about being open and have, different experiences around being open, but more recently shifted from like just ethical consensual non-monogamy to sort of more of a polyamory style, right? Like polyamory meaning, a longer, like a more like a romantic, more profound relationship between him and his partner. And she's a friend of mine as well. So polyamory kind of meaning that we're all friends and we all kind of know each other. And there's this, pretty serious relationship going on. And I was really supportive of it in my mind, right? I love her. I love him. We're all really good. Like it all made sense emotionally to me, but I was having these really strong reactions in my body. And I was like, I talked to my therapist and I'm like, I don't understand because it's not aligning with how I feel, intellectually. And so I really just was so kind of just taken aback at like how when I was calm and in this calm state of mind, I was so logical and it all made so much sense and I was engaged and I was abundant and I was able to like recognize that love is infinite and like all of the things that I've been talking about for the last 25 years, in my work. I was able to intellectualize all of that and I really truly believed it. But then every now and then these feelings would come up in my body. And so in the work that I've been doing, I have had to like address a lot of the traumas that happened in my earlier relationships around opening up, which all of us have experienced. We've talked about here how like ethical and consensual is an ideal that we strive towards. And my early non-monogamous relationships were a mess, right? And there was a lot of betrayal and there was a lot of abandonment and a lot of that was unprocessed. A lot of it was just sitting in my body and it would get activated. And mind you, the body really acts on historical stuff, because if you think about fight or flight, freeze and fawn, that's ancient.
Yeah.
Right. Like our body is responding to something evolutionarily so old. So if our body's doing that, imagine what it's doing to our trauma that we experienced as kids. Right. And so the only really truly way to let our body know it's safe is to do something that integrates the body. We can't intellectualize our way out of it. We can't talk our way out of it. We can't journal our way out of it. And I've been working from that premise for so long. And so I started doing the somatic work. I'm going to tell you a book that really helped me, and it's not even out yet. A friend of mine, Kana Cassard, is a sex therapist, and she is coming out with a book called Arousal Architecture. And she asked me to write a, to just read the book before it came out, so I could write her a blurb, before it comes out. I can't even think of the name, what you would call
like
that.
A forward or a review, or
not a forward, but yeah, just a endorsement basically.
Okay.
For the book, so Kana's work is really around working with clients that have pelvic pain and painful intercourse and things like that. But she's really, at her core, a somatic trauma therapist. And in her book, she goes through, like, the very first section of the book is how to regulate your body. And within that, she gave some really helpful tools. And I'm going to talk about the one that's helped me the most, because I think this is what can help people the most. And that is first of all, recognizing what it means when your body is dysregulated, right? And so, I don't remember if she went into that in her book, but how I kind of work with my clients around it is like, you have to recognize what your calm state is and give that a 0. And then anything that's above that, you give it as a 1, a 2, a 3. Like if you're starting to feel anxious about something that your partner just said, maybe you're at a 1, maybe you're at a 2. By the time you're at a 5, you're not in a place where you can have a normal, rational conversation, right? And so recognizing by the time you're at a 10, you're probably flying off the handle in rage, right? Or you're in flight mode, you're shut down, you're in shock, you can't even talk, right? So 10 is like completely off the charts. But if you're at 5, you're already at a place where you can't communicate with your partner or partners or anyone that's dysregulating you.
Yeah.
And then so basically, like, what she talks about is noticing the part of your body that is not feeling that. So where are you feeling that? You're feeling it in your stomach, maybe in your chest, maybe in your face, maybe your like head is all hot, maybe your hands are like sweaty, your palms are sweaty. But what part of you doesn't feel that? Maybe the bottom of your feet, maybe the back against the chair, maybe the tip of your nose. Like, locate the areas in your body that don't feel that dysregulation, and focus on that part of the body for 20 to 30 seconds and do it, mindfully, and then come back to your body and see how your body feels. That alone has been so helpful, because it reminds you that it reminds your body that you're safe, right? I'm in a chair, my feet are on the ground, right? Like, I'm not being chased by a lion right now.
Yeah, and I think that part that you're talking about, that figure out what your 0 is. I mean, I think my terminology for that is like, what's your baseline? And I think doing exercises with people for them to figure out their baseline, because when they're in the middle of dysregulation, it's the hardest time to try to figure that stuff out. But doing exercises where you know what your baseline is, like if you go to bed one night and you had a nice day and you're feeling calm and ready for the next, like what does it feel like to be completely calm and relaxed? What does it feel like? And sort of give yourself those different, I don't know, I guess window of tolerance comes in there too. Like, figure out what is your baseline, at what point do you feel like you've gone outside of it. But I think the way you're talking about it is good, because what I'm saying is still theoretical. And you're saying this is what it actually looks like to do it. It looks like to focus on the parts that you don't feel it and go there and come back.
I think that the window of tolerance can expand too, right? Like, part of it is our baseline is the window of tolerance, right? And initially it's really small, but as we continue to practice this type of like somatic engagement, we can expand that window of tolerance over time. And our body starts to learn more and more about safety. And in the process, we are also healing our body of that old trauma.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, I've been doing it, in my own work, and it's really helping me inform the work that I do with my clients, because we do a lot of talking as therapists, as coaches, and particularly in our work as sex therapists, it's so important for us to integrate the body. Right. Hands-on is obviously, Wayne, you do hands-on work. That's one way to integrate the body. But when you're sitting on Zoom across from someone, or even in a therapy office across from someone, how do we help our clients integrate into the body? So I think somatic has been really helpful for that.
I'm excited for this book.
I know. It's really good.
First off, I want to say thank you for sharing, because, sometimes I think that a lot of times we can all speak from a perspective of just like an overview, but sometimes when we give a personal, perspective, personal experience of ourselves, I think that for one helps people understand and relate to that. We go through these things as well. We don't just, we're not just here to kind of just talk about these things. We actually have gone through and we have lived experiences, and I think that's always, a great share. And so thank you. Cause he's like, man, you're a therapist. Like, how do you go through things? It must be easy for you. Like, oh no, I'm human. I deal with some things, and I definitely go through things that feel hard for myself as well. And I have to put into practice the things that I'm talking to people about. So I think, yeah.
Yeah, we can be super well resourced, but how do we use those? How do we use those resources?
Yeah. No, I know I even maybe have said this here. I shared something with a therapist of mine one time. I was like, I'm scared you're going to judge me. I'm scared you're going to think I'm a bad therapist if I tell you about this. And she was like, Kelly, if every mental health care professional had to have all their shit together, there would be no mental health care professionals. So yay, nice.
Yeah.
And just a reminder of that, I can't therapize myself. Like, I can't do therapy on me. Like, I'm gonna need some outside, some help. Yeah.
Some support. Yeah.
Things don't happen in a vacuum. You've got to have something to push against.
But I am really grateful for being resourced. Like, the fact that another therapist reached out for me to read their book that's not even out yet, to get an endorsement. Like, how lucky am I?
Yeah.
So, I'm plugging your book, Kana. Hope you're listening.
Yay, Kana. I can't wait for your book.
And I've actually been talking to my clients recently about what does their support system look like, because I'm just always like, do you even have a support system? And if so, what does that look like? Do you feel comfortable and safe to talk to the people around you about all the things without feeling shame, guilt, judgment, embarrassed? Because if you don't have anybody to talk to, then you're going back to that codependent, because you only have your person, and that's the person who usually is causing you the anxiety and the stress because of whatever the situation is, and so it's like so now you just kind of holding it, right? And you're just like holding your body into somatic work.
Just stuck holding the bag.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, and that kind of brings it back around to what you were introducing to begin with, right? Like, what does this actually look like, and how much of it are you trying to keep with just you and your partners, and how much do you reach for outside help about? I think this is speaking to all of that.
Well, I think I was like, when I was at Sex Down South with Wayne and Sasha and Jamie, I was surrounded by people that are experts in non-monogamy, right? Like, I am so resourced when it comes to literature, friends, coworkers, colleagues. Like, everyone I know is practicing some form of, sex positive, whatever. And everyone I have so much support, but like, I'm an anomaly, right? I'm a therapist that does this work. And so I think most of our clients, and many people probably listening to this, don't have that.
Yeah.
Right. So,
and I think that's why people come to Los Angeles Sex Therapy, because even if whether they're coming for something specifically about this type of work or not, just knowing that they can go somewhere where it's sex positive, and that you're not going to be deemed messed up or odd or different, or the therapist or the coach isn't going to try to make it about this one specific thing about you, just to be surrounded by folks where you can speak about all of it and be honest about all of it.
Yeah.
I have a couple of points to make. This might feel a little bit you know, like random, because I wasn't part of the conversation. I had a mom moment that I go take care of. So I'm just joining back the conversation. But you know, just maybe some reframes. This is a little bit more, you know, coming from the, you know, I guess intellectual space, kind of concepts again, since, you know, you were talking about the body stuff, which I love as well. But just some reframes that, you know, I have just for myself kind of noticed, not coming from any particular source or anything, but when I notice myself kind of getting into that space of, you know, like taking care of my partner, trying to protect them and their feelings, and like thinking that I'm not sharing or I don't want to share. It doesn't feel safe to share because, you know, I want to like, I'm so worried about how it's going to make them feel or whatnot. Two things that I think I was able to kind of pull from those experiences that I like to share. One is a reframe is that like, oh, okay, this shows me that, you know, this person really matters to me. You know, I really care about them, and, you know, I care, you know, how my desires or what I'm going through impacts them. And it just kind of helps me be a little bit more, you know, kind to myself about it and not judgmental or not like pressure or forced or whatnot. Also, on the flip side, what I realized too is I was like, well, that's nice. That's nice to hear that you care about your partner and how they feel and whatnot. But I think underneath that, really, it's not about that. It's not about how they feel and what's going to happen to them. It's really the fear of what I'm going to feel. You know, it's more like I'm trying to avoid feeling, you know, whatever I'm going to feel as a reaction to what my partner is feeling. So yes, do I care about how they're feeling and how it impacts them? Of course. But really what keeps me is how I'm going to end up feeling afterwards about myself, you know? And so, I mean, that's kind of a little twist that I like to remember, you know, because it seems kind of on the surface that it's coming from this like altruistic, like this kind, like, oh, I love my partner and I care about how they're feeling. I was like, no,
it's actually pretty selfish.
Yeah, I was like, no, that's kind of, you know, that's what you tell yourself.
Yeah.
To soften it for yourself and make it feel better, you know. But no, it's really, it's
you're
like, it's
you're
selfish,
avoiding your own discomfort.
You're avoiding your own discomfort, exactly, and that's really where it's come from. And it's hard to face, but it is a hard truth. And you know, I think when you kind of focus your work, whether it's somatic work or whatever, kind of more towards that versus, you know, externalizing it to your partners or whatnot, is really where a lot of the big shifts have happened for me, you know. So just wanted to offer those reframes.
Yeah, I think that's a really important one. It's like on the one hand, we think we're protecting our partners, but I think that if we go a little bit deeper, we're probably just avoiding the discomfort in general that's gonna come about. And in so doing, I think I would take it a step further. We're not just not sharing. I think sometimes we're not even doing the things that, you know, we want to do or we should be doing, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
We block ourselves that way.
Yeah, which I think you know, is a nice little petri dish for resentment, you know, in the relationship. And resentment is like one of the hardest, I found, like hardest things to shift from and move from and to, you know, get past and heal. And I think especially again because I think often with resentment we put the focus again on externalizing it, right, on the people, on the what they did to me and how I feel righteous in this situation, and you know what I think they should be accountable for, and you know, and me being the accountable police and trying to hold them accountable or whatever the case, when really I, in my experience, resentment has been more about how I abandoned myself or I let myself down or didn't show up for myself, you know, and really the accountability is to me. And so yeah, so it's like until we, in my experience, can do the work from from that angle. Resentment is really, really hard to get through.
Yeah, no, I get it, because if you start like Mo was saying, if you start, okay, not only am I not sharing, I'm not doing, and then the other person doesn't recognize it, and you're like, well, hold on, I've been over here not doing this and not doing this all on your account, and the other person's like, I didn't know that was going on. Well, what am I supposed to do? Like, how am I supposed to know that? How am I supposed to react to that, when really, comes back to they had no agency in that, you just did it. Now you're expecting gold stars for it, or whatever,
Right. Yes, exactly. So
that's a difficult hole to dig yourself out of.
Do you want to share some since you were talking about how helpful personal experiences are and relatable? Do you want to share some?
You can share.
No, I'm asking you. Did you have any? I don't have any off the top of my head.
No, we just just in having being right now in our relationship. The reason it even came up because the other day it was myself, Melissa, and my other partner, Nisha, and we were kind of just like hadn't checked in a while, all three of us, and so and when that happens, I think that things could build up because we haven't checked in and spoken, and so there may be some unspoken things, and I think that like everybody is different, right? For me, I prefer and I know that I have a privilege in this case, and I know that everybody doesn't have this privilege, but in my case, the fact that they can talk to one another. So I like to take myself out the middle and just have the two people in any situation, friends or whatever. I'd rather have the two people who who want to relay a message or have something about the other person, just to talk to each other. And I hate being in the middle. And because when I do that, I feel like I'm now becoming that person to try to protect both sides and try to make it nice and soft and the possible, because I'm anticipating what I'm doing is I'm assuming and speculating what the possibility outcome can be, opposed to allowing it to happen and not really trying to control or dictate the outcome of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, which brings up another whole topic that we could talk about, but I know it was felt important to you, of like this being the hinge, being the.
I was just gonna say, like, I think there is a responsibility for the hinge, because I'm in the same situation as you guys are, right? Like, me and my partner's girlfriend, we talk, pretty regularly, so we can work stuff out. But I think there's some things that fall in the responsibility of the hinge, right? And that is, maybe to set boundaries and to, like Kelly always says, front load. And there is work to be done for the hinge. I think the hinge has a big responsibility to unpack some of that codependence. It doesn't fall on the other two partners to do that for you. I don't know if that resonates, but
everybody's responsible for their own shit and doing the best they can to be aware of it and to be brave and to be vocal about it. And then at that point, it becomes a collaboration that you can't expect anybody else to show up and do that for you. Even if you are the hinge, you still have a responsibility to show up with your piece of it.
Well, and you have two people that you have to consider, and so I understand that it's hard, but it's part of what you signed up for too, and putting it on the other partners, I feel like, not saying that you're doing this, Wayne, but just to be sort of conscious of it, conscientious that you're not putting on your two partners what is actually your responsibility. And you can check in with them, I think, and say, like, hey, is this something that I should be handling? I think they can help you figure that out. Again, it is a collaboration, but I think that it's important for you to also, take some of that off their plate, because you are the hinge, right?
Yeah, and that kind of stuff I don't mind. I can handle that stuff. It's when some feelings come up, right? And so that I feel like, instead of being the person to have to convey a message, now it's maybe taken out of context. I can get it from the source, right? So now, because what ends up happening is that a lot of questions. So what does this mean? Or what does that mean? Or how was this said? So yeah, that part, it feels hard for me because now I'm trying to speak for the other person or defend the other person. And so that's the kind of things that, when we talked about, like, yeah, I would rather, because I can find myself getting to that space where now I'm trying to defend. And
I think that's a boundary, though. You don't have to, right? Like letting that partner that's trying to dissect that information being like, what so-and-so says and feels has nothing to do with our relationship. Like, let them be. I think being really clear about the two relationships and, like I guess what I'm trying to say, if one partner is asking about what the other partner's saying, like that isn't your responsibility, right? And that's maybe not even anyone's responsibility. Like that's just hearsay. Like, we also have our own work to do in those situations.
Yeah.
Made me think about, you talked about privilege and how, we have the privilege, like you said, because your partner and I do have access, a lot of access to each other. We have we can have direct communication with each other. We share a lot of space, things like that. And I'm thinking about, and it seems like for you, it's like the automatic, it's kind of like obvious for you. You're like, yeah, just just be direct with each other, just whatever, right? Because like that's just your experience, that's the privilege that you have. A lot of people listening don't have that privilege, nor may they not be with two partners who see it the same way or whatnot. And that's a reality for a lot of people, where they might be with somebody who doesn't want anything to do with the other partner yet and still is asking a lot from the hinge. And that can be a really tough situation.
That's a lot, yeah.
And, so and especially in those situations, I really feel for the hinge partner, because it's like, ooh, very limited. It's like, okay, so you don't want much access or, direct communication with my other partner yet, and still there's a lot that you're asking from me. And so, yeah.
Right. So then that
could be tough. Again, hence when boundaries come in again and whatnot. So,
and even in that, right, that's when I think that I hope that they have the space where they can ask, okay, so are we venting right now? Because, are you trying to, is this solution-based conversation, and so because that, I feel like that's okay, cool. They may not have connection to one another, but what kind of conversation are we having? So I can at least know what we're doing and I can show up the best I can in this space that we do have, available.
In my experience, something similar to that, I think in those situations, it's really, really, really imperative and helpful for that hinge partner to, in all the situations, but especially for something like that, for that hinge partner to find a space for themselves, where they can recenter, reground, they can feel back in their bodies and, remember who they are, what's important to them, how they want to navigate things, and not constantly pulled from.
Yeah. And going back to the why, like the why you're doing this, what's important about this, all your the values work that we talk about, I think becomes really important, but yeah, you've got to spend time with yourself, and actually maybe even prioritize yourself over these two or however many relationships when you are in that role.
That's interesting.
Yeah. Everything y'all have been saying the last 5 minutes is making me think of, I'm working with two different couples that they're monopoly. And so this is at a level 10 in that kind of situation. Just like Mo, when you said, this is what you signed up for. Well, yeah, this person signed up for, but it's a totally different take for them. So I don't know that we need to, I think that's a whole different rabbit hole.
There's so many cases, right? Case by case is what I always say.
I think the monopoly thing is important because right now we're talking about a hinge partner, which means they have other stuff going on too. What happens when you don't? What happens when you've agreed that this relationship is important enough that you're going to stay monogamous and the other one isn't? That's a whole other thing. So I'm just introducing it for maybe next time. Because
that's where the situation. If Melissa were to stay monogamous, or if I were to stay monogamous, then our hinge would be the non-monogamous one. We'd be the monogamous one, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of the scenario, right?
Yeah.
And I think Yeah.
For a second there.
And I think what I heard from Melissa when she was like, like the hinge partner find their space, I think, again, it goes back to support, right? Like, what does their support system look like and who do they have? And all it's, yeah.
Kelly, we might as well just go into a little bit. Who did you all have? I mean, who did you have in mind, or what did you have in mind? Were you speaking of like the hinge in that monopoly, or the monogamous partner in that monopoly?
Monogamous partner. I think the monogamous partner, and what this would look like for them, what selfish would look like for them, what wanting information versus asking for or not asking for, how, like what it's like for them, right? Because it's they did sign up for it. They did say, okay.
The mono person signed up for it. Yeah.
And then also the one who's being polyamorous will say, this is a lot of work. Well, guess what? You signed up for that too. So they both signed up for it.
Yeah. The polyamorous person in this case is the hinge.
Yeah. And then the monogamous person, it's hard on everybody. And yes, they both signed up for it. And so it's totally different.
Yeah, I do want to add something in. So when we say, because if somebody outside listen to this, who is maybe struggling with non-monogamy, they'd be like, "Oh, see, look, I don't want to sign for that." But the same thing is that you sign up for it in monogamy as well. Like you sign up for your relationship as monogamous person.
Yeah, it's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing. I'm just saying, it gets tough. But what parts of relationship don't you just? Oh, as a real. I'm sorry, people who can't see us. The cutest cat named Azaria just walked across the stage.
Sorry to distract you all.
You're right, Wayne. You're 100% right. At any point in any conversation, someone could say, "You signed up for this." It's only when people start lying and hiding and doing things like that people sign up for the relationship. Okay, what does that look like in your situation? That's all it really comes down to.
Yeah. And that's not a non-monogamy issue or a monogamy issue. That's a people in the relationship issue, I guess.
Right.
That's a relationship issue. That's if you are with your family issue, that's a coworker.
You signed up for this family. No, I didn't.
You signed up for this job.
You signed up with this person, not the relationship. Like you chose this person. I don't know. Let's talk about that. Like,
I think that we do have to remind people, like, this is what you chose, but you can negotiate. Yeah. You can talk about what's working and what might not be working.
Yeah.
And I think what you're talking about, Wayne and Kelly, I think I know, is like this sort of like, instead of talking about how we're feeling or what we need, we start to go in and ask questions like, what's happening here? What's going on here? Like that. And for the hinge then to be like, I think as therapists, I know that those questions are coming from dysregulation. And I think that's where the hinge needs to recognize, like, which questions am I going to answer? Which ones are coming from a place of fear? And how do I hold space for that and help my partner in my relationship not get bogged down in the fear questions and stay in the feeling.
Yes.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. And which can be difficult, right? That can be difficult if you aren't able to feel attacked and feel like you need to get on the defense.
Well,
right?
that's why.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
It's so important to have that alone time as a hinge, because you have to kind of be grounded, be centered. Make sure that you're also not coming from fear and adding to that.
Or guilt.
Or exactly shame, guilt, that stuff. Because it is a. Yes, that's why I think it's so important.
It becomes a perfect storm, right? Mm-hmm. If one person is scared, what's going on over here in your other relationship, and then the hinge is feeling guilt and becomes defensive, then you're feeding into that fear, right? And like now, but that's actually an opportunity. Like if the hinge is, like you say, Melissa, like grounded, they can redirect that that fear and redirect their own guilt and be like, hey, that is not, not somewhere we need to go. Let's focus on us. And I think what I often encourage, clients to do when they're worried about what's going on with their partner and their other relationships is you can never control that. You'll never be able to control what's going on with your partner and their other relationships. What you can control is what's happening in your relationship. Mm-hmm. And so to refocus on us, right? Like what's going on with us? How can I reassure you? How can we recenter and refocus and re-strengthen our commitment, our bond, whatever, so that all of the superfluous fear goes over there? Because it's really going to sabotage everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. Don't feed into that. Kind of notice it as like, if you use this, like kind of like that's just the symptom. That's just a reaction of what's really, really happening. I think underneath all that fear, whatever, like you said, Mo, is really what's happening between us, what's happening, where do I fit in all of this, what do I mean to you, and, all of this, all of that. So yeah, focusing on that. And I think sometimes I try to help my clients to listen beyond what your partner is giving to you, you know what I mean, in words or in their reactions or whatever the case. It's easy to go right into that and hear kind of the context or whatnot, but to listen beyond that, to try to connect with them as they're sharing what they're sharing and feel them. Like, we use this in therapy. Like, what do you think that your partner is trying to convey to you, through whatever the words that they're using, versus what is it that they're just telling you or that you're hearing from
verbal and nonverbal cues.
Yeah, both verbal and nonverbal cues. Like, can you feel kind of the core of what your partner is trying to convey to you versus what they're telling you? And when you can address those things, I think it kind of can diffuse a lot of the tension.
Sorry, go ahead, Wayne.
Sorry, and I was gonna say, and also you can just ask, like, because I know for me, it's helped a lot just asking, like questions and just being in listening, just like not really just listening, but questions came up from me. It's like, where do you think, like the things we always say to our clients, right? Where do you think that I'm not being, that you don't think I'm hearing you at? Where do you think I'm not understanding you? Because now you can be clear, and hopefully they can be as clear as possible as letting me know what do they feel as though I'm not hearing or understanding, like what are they trying to convey to me? Yeah.
I'm just going to say this, non-monogamy is really, really hard, and it will sort of tap on all of your unresolved trauma. So it's going to require you to really take a long, hard look at yourself ongoing. Right. It's not a thing that finishes. But I encourage you to do it. I encourage everyone out there that's curious about non-monogamy to try it and do it, because it takes you out of complacency. It takes you out of this false pretense that monogamy is going to protect you from something. Monogamy is going to protect you from having to do any work. Yeah. Monogamy will protect you from having to do any work, but if you really, really, truly want to do work and transform your life and really tackle all of those old traumas and fears, then, I say go for it, and just know it's going to be hard, and we're here for you.
I love that. Yes, because ultimately it just makes us a better version of ourselves. And not just in romantic relationships, but all relationships, friends, family, platonic, whatever. It just helps us all around, kids included, like all the things.
Yeah, I think it makes us stronger. At the end of the day, it's gonna definitely just make you so much more stronger and know yourself. Really get to know yourself.
I agree with everything y'all are saying, and I always have to do my little disclaimer of, we aren't trying to force this on people. There's some people, they may not want to try it, but yes, everything that we've said is true.
I'm gonna piggyback on Kelly and say I agree with you, Kelly. But if you're scared of trying it, like, look at that, because it goes back to what Melissa was saying, is like, are you avoiding looking at something in yourself? And you know, it is a hard lifestyle. It's, you know, it's hard. It's like any lifestyle that's not mainstream. It's hard to be queer. It's hard to be a person of color. It's hard to be non-monogamous. So I understand not wanting to try it.
And I'm going to piggyback on Kelly and Mo and say, not only if you're scared of it, you know, should you look at that, but, and especially if it's something that you're interested, you feel an interest towards, a desire, and you're scared of it, especially, you know, take a look at that, because
take a look at it. I just would hate for anyone to think that if they came to us, we would be trying to push them into the deep end of this. It's like, no, we'll just talk about it.
No, we're not trying to push it, but you know.
But also, we really are here for. I mean, that's something that I got from Wayne too. I used to be the same way, Kelly. I was like, but what about the people? And then it's like, well, there's so much support out there for monogamy and for people. So much. And so, yeah, sometimes it does really matter to kind of be like, no, we're the ones, for those who do want to, like, we're here. You know?
Yeah, we're not gonna sugarcoat and tell you that you should be monogamous.
Yeah.
You can turn on the TV and they're gonna tell you that.
Right, and they're gonna tell you how they're gonna teach you all the hundreds
teach you how to be
ways
monogamous.
how to be monogamous. Right. It's, you know, even I always, like, even with my monogamous couples that I work with, when I apply the non-monogamous framework, I can see how much things come up for them. Like, it brings up all the things they can tell. Like, it's like, whoa, like this feels hard. This feels scary. It's like, yeah, because we haven't done this before. And and then at the end of it, they're like, wow, thank you so much. Like, this has helped us so much. Like, we've become so much closer because of these things. Like, yeah, because we, like you said, we've been avoiding, like you said, Mo, we've been avoiding certain aspects, you know, to protect ourselves, you know. And so now when confronted and having to deal with it, it's like, oh my gosh, like, this feels scary.
Well, that's why you're here, Kelly.
Exactly. And with that, I've got to go talk to a couple about non-monogamy.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Okay. Wait, go ahead, Kelly.
I want to hear it. Go.
I was just going to say, and also on the opposite end, because we have this, like, really expanded, anybody who's non-monogamous and maybe contemplating being monogamous or being, you know, like, we're here for that too.
Yes.
Like that, you know, that's not something that we don't ever talk about here often. So
yeah, that's a good one.
Say that there's a couple out there and they're considering looking for a therapist or a coach to work with this around. And they're each like, okay, I'm going to do some research. You're going to do some research. And I would imagine they would want to hear someone's like, okay, we can help you figure out how to get there. And it could potentially feel like we would push them into it because of the things we talk about. And I'm just saying we would explore it with them. That's
This is a talk show. This is a talk show, right? A podcast where we share our personal feelings, but as therapists, we're not going to force you.
Yeah,
to
that's
do anything.
That's the only reason I push back, because it's like, okay, somebody's out there like, hey, I found these people. Let's go to one of them, for them to know, oh, they're not going to, you know, basically do the opposite of shaming what a non-sex positive therapist would do. Right. We're not going to shame them if they want to do it or if they don't want to do it.
And just for the record, I have a ton of monogamous couples on my caseload. Yeah.
Yeah. And we're meeting people where they are, right? We're not trying to, like, where are you?
Don't say it, people. You'll know how to speak up for that side. Bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. Until next time, next episode.
Thank you for listening. Shades of Pleasure podcast is currently unsponsored and is brought to you by Los Angeles Sex Therapy and Last Collective in partnership with Shades Therapy and Shades of Non-Monogamy. To support our endeavor so we can continue to bring this pleasurable content, please visit our Substack at shadesofpleasure.substack.com. Thank you for listening, and until next time.